This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio and Sirius XM, Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, interesting show coming your way. Approximately 10 minutes past hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Today we'll have the great Bob Arum, boxing promoter extraordinaire for Top Rank Boxing. His fighter, Terence Crawford, is going to challenge Jeff Horn out of Australia for the welterweight crown this Saturday night at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. That would be tomorrow night. Bob Arum, obviously, is promoting that fight. That fight will be on the ESPN Plus app, which is a very, very big deal for our company. So there's no question that we're looking forward to talking to Bob Arum about this, because Terence Crawford is arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. You can put Lomachenko up in there if you want to. You can put Triple G and Canelo up there if you want to. But Terence Crawford is undefeated. Terence Crawford is 32-0, 23 KOs. We're looking forward to talking to Bob Arum about him. Obviously, we're going to get heavily into the NBA Finals, because I am coming at you live from Cleveland, Ohio, where the Cleveland Cavaliers will host the Golden State Warriors in Game 4 of the NBA Finals tonight. Make no mistake about it, I expect a sweep. I don't expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to win tonight. I think this series is over. I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers had their best chance was winning Game 1. They blew it. I'm not going to get on JR yet again. Don't feel like it, but that's how I feel. Game 3, they had a double-digit lead in the first quarter. They had a double-digit lead in the second quarter. They had a double-digit lead in the third quarter. And each time they lost the lead. So when I look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm like, your best shot. You could have been up 2-1 in this series. Amazing what life would have been like had you had Kyrie Irving, don't you think? Maybe if you didn't lose him, maybe if you didn't alienate him to the point where he wanted to leave Cleveland, maybe, just maybe, you'd be en route to winning your second title in the last 3 years, instead of forfeiting 3 of the last 4 to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But that is the predicament that LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers find themselves in, and I don't see any way out of this. I really, really don't. I see Cleveland getting swept, and if indeed that happens, here's the question. How are you guys going to feel? How are you gals going to feel about LeBron James getting swept in these NBA Finals? Are you going to defer to his 15 years, his 33 years of age, the fact that he's the best player in the world with little to no supporting cast as an excuse to justify him being swept? Or are you going to remember Allen Iverson and how he got you one against Kobe and Shaq? Or the fact that MJ never lost the NBA Finals, let alone got swept in one? What are you going to point to? How are you going to judge LeBron James? How should LeBron James be judged in the event that they get swept? My mentality is simple. He's the greatest player in the world and a physical freak of nature. The combination of the two in the sport of basketball, where one man can win you one night. How come he couldn't get you one? I'm not going to be an apologist for that. I know he's the best player in the world. I think the man is super in a variety of ways. He doesn't think I think that way about him, because we live in a sensitive age, ladies and gentlemen. If this was TV, you would see that I have the bar up, the tags up at the bottom of the screen where it's calling LeBron James great father, great husband, great role model, great philanthropist, the I Promise Foundation, the LeBron James Family Foundation. I didn't have enough room to put in there great actor, great producer. You understand? Civil rights and social activists, rather. I ain't have enough space to put all of that stuff in, because God forbid I have the temerity, the unmitigated gall to sit up there and give the scintilla of a critique of LeBron James. I mean, stop the presses. Stop the presses. I mean, how dare me sit up there and say and utter a negative syllable about this man, let alone a word? We know how this goes. All of these sensitive folks out there can't say anything anymore. I mean, the words that I want to call some of these modern day athletes, y'all have no idea. I mean, can't take anything. I mean, how many days do I have to go on the air and preface my comment? He's the best in the world. He's super. He's phenomenal. Great person, great mower. Do you understand that LeBron James will walk right by me and snub his nose at me and just look at me with utter disgust because I said he should have passed the ball more? That's tantamount to talking about his mama. You can't make this stuff up. That's how bad it has gotten. To me, I'm talking about with anybody in a modern day age. That's how sensitive these dudes are. Well, damn it ain't going to stop me. Because I don't answer to him or any other player. I call it like I see it. He's the best in the world. But in Game 3, he shouldn't have gave the ball to Tristan Thompson. In Game 3, he should have started off a bit more aggressive offensively. I'm not going to sit up there and let Ty Lue off the hook, who I love. Ty Lue, you got to double Kevin Durant. You got to get the ball out of his hands. Especially with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson having an off night, even though they're never off per se, because you can never leave them open. The bottom line is that both of them were having an off night. I'm going to double up and get that ball out of Kevin Durant's hands, who was schooling everybody you put in his face. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to make Draymond Green beat me. I'm going to find a way to make Draymond Green shoot that damn basketball. And I love Draymond, but shooting ain't his forte. So that's just me. And the way I look at it, I don't see any way around that. Now, the narratives are being edited as we speak. Everybody's got their angle. Listen to LeBron James comparing their level of talent to that of Golden State. Listen to this.
We've had an opportunity to win 2 of these games in this 3-game series so far, and we haven't come up with it. Obviously, from a talent perspective, if you're looking at Golden State, from their top 5 best players to all our top 5 players, you would say that they're stacked better than us. I mean, let's just speak truth. Kevin Durant, and you got 2 guys with MVPs on their team, and then you got a guy in Klay who could easily be on a team and carry a team, score 40 in a quarter before. And then you have Draymond, who's arguably one of the best defenders and minds that we have in our game. So you have that crew. And then you add on a finals MVP coming off the bench, a number 1 pick in Livingston, an all-star in David West, and whatever case may be. So they have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent as well. But we've been in a position where we could win 2 out of these 3 games. So what do we have to do?
I have no problem with that statement from LeBron James. It was incredibly accurate and on point. There's no denying that. Incredibly accurate, on point. Nothing I can say about it. He was speaking honestly. And in the end, what it comes down to, however, is that he's acknowledging there's but so much you can do against this team. These Golden State Warriors. And at some point, you got to have luck on your side, which they didn't necessarily have in games 1 and 3. Referees and that bogus call, that didn't help. Reversing the charge into a block, that certainly didn't help. LeBron James and the Cavaliers definitely deserved better than that. But it is what it is. And as a result, the Cleveland Cavaliers are down 3-0 in this series. No team in NBA history has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in an NBA Finals. It will not happen this time around, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, anything in life is possible, I guess, especially when divine intervention is something we all believe in, but it would require that in order for this to happen. God himself would have to put his hands on the shoulders of the Cleveland Cavaliers to propel them to victory in this series, because nothing short of that is going to happen. Now, obviously, if Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant gets hurt, I guess that's another scenario. But that would be divine intervention, wouldn't you say? If 2 of the 3 of them went down, that would be divine intervention. But it would require that in order for Golden State to lose this series at this point. Adam Silver and the NBA ain't around to give but so many stimulus packages this time around. Suspended Draymond Green for a Game 5, the game in which Andrew Bogut and Andre Iguodala both got hurt, which ultimately enabled Cleveland to win Game 5, then come back and win Game 6 in Cleveland, and then ultimately go back to the Oracle and win Game 7. We know. So here we are. And that is that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Another subject that I have to touch on. I just want to state, I know there's people out there, not just at ESPN, but various networks, when we're talking about sports and it's intertwining with politics, particularly as it pertains to this president, everybody gets nervous. Let me say this. Everybody but Stephen A. I ain't nervous. I have no fear in tackling these subjects whatsoever. Because when it comes to getting on the president, I'm not getting on his politics. I'm not doing that. That's for somebody else to do. Somebody with a heightened level of expertise. And if you're on the conservative side, Mark Levin or Sean Hannity will do. If you're on the progressive side, the liberal side, Joe Madison, Karen Hunter, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Thompson, Warren Ballantyne, Mark Lamont Hill, everybody at CNN or MSNBC, I mean, the list goes on and on. Pick your poison. That's not my deal. But I'm going to tell you why I don't hesitate to address behavioral issues, even on the part of the president. Do you know why, ladies and gentlemen? Because we have no problem doing it to 20 and 25-year-olds and beyond in the world of sports. Inherently at the core of any argument that I make about our commander-in-chief in terms of his divisive tendencies, his rhetoric, his tweets, or whatever the case may be, at the heart and core of my argument is the fact that how dare us act like, oh, it's all right not to say anything about him when we will sit up there and judge an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old. But he's running the country and all these boys are doing is playing ball. How dare us think that that's okay? To hold individuals accountable who truthfully have no effect on our lives. But we can sit up there and be invasive towards them and bother them every day. But a man who has the power to influence the amount of taxes we pay, the amount of immigrants who enter or don't enter this country, who has the power to pull people out of jail with pardons and grants of clemency, and on and on and on. How dare us believe for 1 second that we don't get to talk about his behavior, but we can talk about the athletes, or his decisions, but we can talk about the athletes. It's ass backwards. And that's why I don't hesitate to talk about it. And the reason why I brought that up is because President Trump floats posthumously pardoning Muhammad Ali. And according to an article right here off of CNN, President Donald Trump said Friday he is considering posthumously pardoning boxer Muhammad Ali, who was convicted in 1967 after refusing military service in Vietnam, even though Ali's attorney called it, quote, unnecessary. Donald Trump says, I'm thinking about Muhammad Ali. I'm thinking about that very seriously, and others. But we'll go further. This is the president speaking on pardoning Ali. Listen up.
I thought Jack Johnson, which was recommended by Sylvester Stallone and some great boxers, I thought Jack Johnson was a great one. I'm thinking about somebody that you all know very well, and he went through a lot, and he wasn't very popular then. And he wasn't very popular then. No, I'm not thinking about O.J. But he's not, only you could say O.J. But he was not very popular then. His memory is very popular now. I'm thinking about Muhammad Ali. I'm thinking about that very seriously. And some others. And some folks that have sentences that aren't fair. But I am thinking about Muhammad Ali.
Ladies and gentlemen, it makes no sense whatsoever. Muhammad Ali's conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court in 1971. And for anybody opposed to selective service, Jimmy Carter pardoned them in 1977 when he was president. This accomplishes nothing. Absolutely, positively nothing. Other than giving the impression that you empathize with the plight that some black folks may have experienced. You pardoned Jack Johnson, obviously, for being in violation of the Mann Act. In other words, essentially, for all intent and purpose, having an interracial relationship. That's what you did. This happened in early 19th century. I mean, you talk about fruitless actions. Makes no sense. Smokescreen. Now, there's going to be conservatives out there that are barking up the, are you accusing him of not caring about the African-American community? Have you seen black unemployment? Have you seen the unemployment rate? I'm not getting into all of that. I'm not even questioning it. And for those of you who might sit up there and say, oh, Stephen A., what are you saying? Who have you spoken to? Well, I've spoken to nobody recently. I've had these discussions about the president with Sean Hannity before. I know Sean Hannity. I actually like Sean Hannity. I think he's crazy sometimes, but it's my guy. The great one, Mark Levin. Profound respect for him. Don't always agree with him. He knows that. He knows that. But I'd love to see somebody debate him, because I've never heard him utter words out of his mouth where he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I've been guest on their show. I respect them. And I disagree with them about 70% of the time, which they know. But I would never call them what some critics call them. So this notion that, you at ESPN and all of a sudden you just got a liberal perspective and you're against the president. Oh, shut the hell up. It's false. It's not true. And just because one or two people open their mouth doesn't speak for everybody that works at this company. I'm talking to America. That has nothing to do with the distaste of some of the actions of the president. I didn't say him, I said some of his actions. I don't give a damn who you are. If I don't like your actions, I don't like your actions. It doesn't mean I'm excoriating you and character assassinating you, although some would argue there's a preponderance of evidence when it comes to him, but that's for somebody else to get into. I am telling you that as a black man, to learn that this man is going to pardon Muhammad Ali is asinine. He doesn't need pardoning. And oh, by the way, while we're at it, let's not forget the fact that Ali's own family was like, no, thanks, but no pardon needed. This is what they said, according to Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump's comment on Friday that he might pardon boxing legend Muhammad Ali drew a prompt response from the late heavyweight champion's estate. Thanks, but no thanks. Quote, we appreciate President Trump's sentiment, but a pardon is unnecessary. The United States Supreme Court overturned the conviction of Muhammad Ali in a unanimous decision in 1971. There is no conviction from which a pardon is needed, said Ron Tweel, a lawyer for the boxer's estate and his widow Lonnie. Before leaving to attend the Group of Seven summit in Canada, Trump told reporters he was considering pardoning some 3,000 people, including Ali, who died in 2016. But they already told you it wasn't needed. The boxer refused to be inducted into the United States Army in 1967 during the Vietnam War, claiming conscientious objector status, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was never imprisoned, while his case was under appeal, and in 1971 the United States Supreme Court overturned the conviction. Tweel, reached by telephone at his home in Virginia, said the White House had not contacted him or Lonnie Ali about a potential pardon. He said he had been in contact with the widow after Trump's comments, and they decided to issue a statement on behalf of the family. Quote, we heard what he was contemplating, and it needed a response. Everybody knows what this is. Everybody sees what this is. It's senseless. To some degree, it's grandstanding. Completely and utterly unnecessary. But there are actual folks out there that'll sit up there and say, hey, these black folks are never satisfied. That's not the issue here. I got more on Trump because Ali wasn't the only one he talked about. He also was talking about the NFL players and the Warriors and the Cavs. Whole bunch of stuff he was talking about. And I'll get into all of that as well. Trust you me. Here I come. I'm just getting started. That was Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I told you already. I'm just getting started. I got a lot more to say. Don't you worry. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Talking about the NBA Finals, Game 4 tonight, live from the Q inside Quickens Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Cavaliers host Golden State Warriors, Game 4 of the NBA Finals, and probably the last game of the NBA Finals, unless LeBron is LeBron and goes berserk, and they win a game and get set for Game 5 Monday night at the Oracle in Oakland, California. Don't know if that's going to happen with this team. Can't see this going. Golden State is determined to sweep LeBron out of Cleveland. Those were their words to me. And it looks like they're going to pull it off. I'd be shocked, to be honest with you, if Cleveland ended up pushing this to Game 5. But then again, with LeBron, who knows? Who knows? Also got into President Trump and how he talked about pardoning Muhammad Ali, who had his conviction for not entering the draft. He had his conviction overturned in 1971 unanimously by the Supreme Court. So he was never in jail. He never did any jail time, and the conviction was overturned. So there is no need for a pardon. The Ali estate, through his lawyer, specifically stated as much. And yet Trump comes up with this. Asinine, irrelevant, and in the end, probably some grandstanding too. But Trump didn't stop there. He was talking about pardoning other folks. And he had a message to the NFL players on the issue of pardons, believe it or not. Listen to what he had to say to them.
What I'm thinking to do, you have a lot of people in the NFL in particular, but in sports leagues, they're not proud enough to stand for our national anthem. I don't like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say to them, instead of talk, it's all talk, talk, talk. We have a great country. You should stand for our national anthem. You shouldn't go in a locker room when our national anthem is played. I am going to ask all of those people to recommend to me, because that's what they're protesting, people that they think were unfairly treated by the justice system. And I understand that. And I'm going to ask them to recommend to me people that were unfairly treated, friends of theirs or people that they know about. And I'm going to take a look at those applications. And if I find, and my committee finds that they're unfairly treated, then we will pardon them or at least let them out. If the players, if the athletes have friends of theirs or people that they know about that have been unfairly treated by the system, let me know.
You know something? Ooh, see. Y'all have no idea how bad I want to go off about this. I'm not going to do it, though. I'm not going to do it. What I will say to you instead is this. The president is being incredibly slick. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, let me play the role of devil's advocate. Let's just say the NFL players shouldn't have a problem with it. Let's just say that the NFL players should fall for that okie doke right there. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what Trump would do? Anybody he'd pardon, let's just say for the sake of argument, all of these players, vast majority, if not all of them, black, but not all of them, because there were some white players that supported them, but the vast majority of them happen to be black. And let's suppose that they did send the president a list of individuals who they thought were treated unfairly by the justice system and needed to be pardoned. You know what Trump is going to do? He's going to have a list of all of those people. He might parade them in front of them. And they're not going to be individuals that were pardoned. They're going to be labeled criminals he gave mercy to, which ultimately puts the idea of criminal in the mind's eye of the public and makes him look merciful. I mean, damn, here we are talking about the president of the United States, and one could easily argue we're really talking about Julius Caesar. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Mercy. Am I not merciful? Remember the movie Gladiator? Joaquin Phoenix? Am I not merciful? Am I not merciful? Remember that scene? That's how Trump sounds. That's how the man sounds. Let's go to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Lenny in Carolina. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, buddy? How are you?
What's going on, big brother? How you feeling?
I'm all right, man. Talk to me.
Hey, how out of touch is this guy? I mean, really, and you said you ain't going to go off about it, but I think I will. But because you just sat there and said, okay, you got an application, and I'm going to look at these applications for, you just missed the entire boat of what these guys are actually protesting. If you're going to pardon somebody, pardon the guy that got shot by that cop in Oklahoma or Trayvon Martin. I mean, where do they get their justice? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, how can you sit there and say some garbage, what you just said, and I thought he was doing a good job, but you just got to shut up sometimes. Just shut up, Mr. President, because that was just the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I appreciate the call, Lenny. Thanks a lot, man. Earl in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Earl?
Peace, Stephen A., man. I'm young, I'm black, I'm beautiful, but I got to defend my man Donald Trump, man.
Okay.
Because this is something that was brought to him by the media. The media drummed this up because millions of people were upset about the kneeling issue. He nearly said his personal opinion on how he felt. Now, Kaepernick, I think he has to choose his protest a little better. Like, I cannot cut the heads off Jesus Christ statues and then say, oh, I want, religion should be in schools, or they're not letting religion be in schools, and then not expect people to get offended by it. People are going to be offended by it.
Well, listen, I disagree with you there, but I understand what you're saying because, listen, I'm not one of these people that if somebody wants to make a supportive point on behalf of Trump, I'm going to summarily dismiss them because I'm in the business of fairness. And when he does something right, I'm going to give him credit for it. But my problem with what you're saying, Earl, is that you're blaming the media for bringing something to his attention. Well, just because somebody brings something to your attention doesn't absolve you from whatever answer you choose to give. He's a grown man, and he's the president of the United States. And he's the leader of all folks in this nation. He's the president. And so as a result of that, you have a responsibility to conduct yourself a certain way, act a certain way, display and execute things a certain way and what have you. And when you look at some of the decisions that he's made, I'm not here to sit up there and excoriate his politics because the prism of history will show and highlight and illuminate for us exactly the job that he is doing and has done, and the experts can judge accordingly. What I'm saying is, as we sit here today and think about the divisive rhetoric, the tweets and the things of that nature that he has engaged in, and how because of it, it's divided our nation to such a degree, he can't escape that culpability. There is a responsibility that comes along with that. And if there are those who have a higher level of culpability and responsibility, it certainly doesn't exceed his. as president of the United States, you have to be better. You just have to be better. You have to project better, not just be better. You have to project better. And that's not something he's doing, Earl. It's just not something he's doing. I appreciate the call. More to Stephen A. Smith Show on the NBA Finals, on the president and the NFL and Muhammad Ali. In a minute, you're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
Back to the phones we go. Andrew in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
What's up, Stephen A.?
I'm good. What's up?
Real quick, Stephen A., about the president. You know how you always want to say you want to interview Jerry Jones at the must-see TV?
Yep.
After what the president say, that be must-see TV with Stephen A. interviewing the president after the nonsense he just spewed.
And that's true.
That's all I was know.
But you know what? It would be dangerous for me because you know what? He can filibuster. He can give long-winded answers. He could deviate from the narrative, trying to create his own, and as a result, his constituency might buy it hook, line, and sinker, and you might end up the villain just because you're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So you got to watch out for that, too. But I appreciate the call, Andrew. Thank you so much. Let's go to Jay in Long Island. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Stephen A. Always good.
Thank you.
I think the players should take Trump up on this thing, on his offer. I think, to me, I think Trump, he's saying that, okay, give me the list of people. Let me tell you, do I really care why or how he released people as long as he releases as many people as we can get released? Because to me, I think we're getting blindsided by the messenger instead of about what's going to happen. If you can get as many people out of jail, I don't need a hug from you to do it. I just need you to do your due diligence.
That's fair.
Get them out of jail. Get them out of jail.
That's fair, Jay. But can I ask something, Jay? Can I ask something, Jay? I think that's fair, but can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Don't we want to make sure the right people are getting out of jail, as opposed to people that's just getting out of jail because they have notable or celebrity friends? I'm going to tell you something right now. I ain't going to lie to you, Jay. I want criminals in jail. I don't want them out. Now, if you don't deserve to be there, of course I want you out. And have there been those wrongfully incarcerated? Absolutely. Bernard Hopkins, the former undisputed middleweight champion of the world, never fails to remind me of that. And I appreciate that. I truly do. But I ain't going to lie to you. If you a criminal, I want you in jail now.
But this is my thing. Kaepernick said he was kneeling because of injustices, the criminal system, and things like that. So if Trump has a problem with you kneeling, but he's addressing the issues that you're kneeling about, as far as prison reform,
right?
I think we should kind of focus on that part, because that's the most important part.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think
that's fair, Jay. You're right. I appreciate the call. You're right, Jay. That's a good point. John in Texas, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Stephen A. First off, thank you for taking my call. I'd like to express my appreciation for the way you approach sensitive subjects like this.
Thank you.
But hear me out, because I can feel the vitriol in your voice. I think Trump completely missed the mark on Muhammad Ali. I think he spoke before he was educated on the subject. I don't even think he knew that Ali had already been gone through the Supreme Court and all that good stuff. And
it got overturned. Okay, fair enough. In other words, for somebody that's on, that's been noted, for somebody that's not the most avid reader, you might be right. But go ahead.
But my thing is I think he completely misses the mark on these pardons of celebrities and football players. That doesn't solve systemic racism.
Right.
We need to solve systemic racism. But what I do think is a good walkaway here in the olive branch is President Trump is talking about this. The President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, is finally addressing the subject publicly, and it opens the door for further discussions. So, maybe I'm being a little optimism here.
I don't think you're wrong.
I would like to get your thoughts on that.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think you make a very, very valid point. And I think my brother in Long Island did the same, because the reality is that if he's making an attempt to address the real problem, we shouldn't just dismiss it because it's him. At the end of the day, it's not about the individual. It's about their actions, right? And so if his actions lend itself towards making a positive contributions to the things that ail us as a society, then we should be open to it. The problem is that he's jaded us so significantly with his rhetoric which is nothing short of divisive in a lot of people's eyes, that it's hard to believe that he's doing anything productive. It's almost like the sleeping with your eye open. You're getting to sleep, you're getting to rest, but you can't really fall asleep because you don't know what's going to come up next with this dude.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I think Trump could cure cancer, and they would blame him for overpopulation.
I got you. I understand. In other words, there are some things that, you know what, he isn't doing wrong with, and he still gets blamed for that. That's a fair assertion. And I think that people who support him that make that case, I think they have a legitimate argument. A dead clock is right twice a day. Every single thing the man does isn't wrong. It's just that it's hard to find what's right about him when he acts the way that he acts. That's fair. And I think that's the fair and accurate depiction of his presidency. There's no way around it. I tell you this much, too. After seeing what he gets away with, it's pretty hard to judge anybody else. That much I think it's safe for us to all say. Bob Arum, the NBA Finals, Trump on Ali, on the Players Association and the NFL, and the NBA players as well. All that and more coming up in hour number 2 with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
To hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show here on ESPN Radio, coming at you as I love to do every weekday in over 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM. Channel 80, number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Spent hour number 1 getting into the NBA Finals and Trump and what he had to say about pardoning Muhammad Ali, even though his Supreme Court conviction, the Supreme Court overturned his conviction in 1971, and the family of the Ali estate said, hey, we don't need to be pardoned. We're absolutely fine. So the president makes no sense in that regard. Plus, he spoke about NFL players and taking a knee and how he doesn't like that. Didn't I tell y'all he's going to come after these boys with their new policy? Well, instead of standing for the national anthem, if you're only going to be out there, you got to stand for the national anthem. But if you don't, you can stay in the locker room until the national anthem finishes being played. Trump didn't like that. He's spoken out against that. All right? So here he comes. But he also took the liberty to speak, or rather, LeBron James and those boys talked about not coming to the White House. Did the president have anything to say about that, Cat? Play that for me, please.
I didn't invite him. No, I didn't invite LeBron James, and I didn't invite Steph Curry. We're not going to invite either team. But we have other teams that are coming. If you look, we had Alabama, national champion. We had Clemson, national champion. We had the New England Patriots. We have the Pittsburgh Penguins last year. I think we'll have the Caps. I mean, we'll see. My attitude, if they want to be here, it's the greatest place on earth. I'm here. If they don't want to be here, I don't want them.
I got to tell you something. Ladies and gentlemen, say what you will for Trump. The man is over 70 years of age. He might be. I don't know of any individual that I've ever heard in my life that I've never heard say, I'm sorry. I've never heard say, I was wrong. I've never heard attribute one speck of negativity to themselves. It doesn't matter what level of adversity he faces. It's always someone else's problem. It's always someone else's fault. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I gotta admit it. It's damn near admirable. I mean, think about it. Who pulls that off? Think about, as a human being, the level of adversity that you face every day of your life. And in all your time on this earth, no one has ever heard you say, I'm sorry. I was wrong. It's my fault. I've got to do better. It's never come out of his mouth. Not once. Not one time. I've never heard it. It's damn near admirable. I got to admit it. I don't know how he does it. Don't know how he does it. But for the record, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, along with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors, have made it very, very clear they have no interest in going to the White House. Zero. So I guess you can technically say you didn't invite them, but they already made it clear they weren't coming. I'm just saying. Ray and Queens, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ray?
Hey, Steve. Big fan of you and Smith and Nami. Special shows, unbiased opinion. Actually, my grandmother used to always say, a man will always have something. Fool has to say something. Which one are you? And, you know, that speaks volumes to what Trump is actually saying. But let's look deeper than that. By the time it takes him to get the so-called list, to approve this list from notable sources, and to get them to the people to actually process everything and to administer everything to the sources and to the states and to the attorneys and everything, he's going to be gone. So let's look at the smoke. Look through the smoke. Hold
it. What do you mean is going to be gone?
He's going to be out of here by the time it takes. Remember
how long do you think it's going to take?
Oh, it's going to take years. First of all, you got to
my man. I got no. He said those specific players, whoever they had on their list that they wanted to be pardoned, family, friends, etc., that they felt deserved to be pardoned. We won't even get into the assumption he's making that they are connected with people that are incarcerated. We won't even get into how that sounds. But the point is, he's saying that if they could give me a list, we'll look into it. I mean, that shouldn't take that long.
It's going to take forever. 80% of the NFL is African American or Hispanic. Are you serious? Everyone got a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend.
No. He's talking about who. Listen, Ray. How many people do you know?
I know thousands of people.
Hold on. You know thousands of people that's in jail?
Not in jail. I know thousands of people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Come on, man. Stop wasting my time on the airwaves. I got a radio show to do. You know good and damn well you can pick off people that you personally know that might be in jail that you might want to get out. That's all I'm saying. That's not a hard list to come up with as an individual player.
Look through the smoke. By the time it takes him to gather all of this and the people, it's going to be too late, and he's going to be laughing all the way through his next investment. Come on, people. Let's look through the smoke.
I appreciate the call, Ray. Have a nice day. It's not going to take that long, people. First of all, I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't believe it's going to happen. I'm simply saying that each and every one of us, we know people. Now, that doesn't mean they're in jail or anything, but if your friend is in jail, you know who it is. How long does it take you to come up with the name of somebody that you might know if you feel they've been wrongfully incarcerated? How long does that take for you personally to know? Because he addressed the NFL players, not all of us as human beings. He said those NFL players. That's what he said. But that's neither here nor there. I don't even know why Ray called up with that point. Ricardo in Florida, you're live with Stephen A. before my man Bob Arum comes on. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Stephen, good afternoon. How you doing? How you living?
All right. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, real quick and real easy. No matter what, these are all strategies. Regardless of how you feel about President Trump, he's going to be here for these 4 years, and he's going to be here for the next 4 years.
You're probably,
so
you know what? You know what, Ricardo? You know, no one says that, but you're probably right. I don't see any Democratic opponent that's going to knock him off. So go ahead.
So to use sports analogies in reference to this, like JR's mishap will say not long ago, the president at times seems to not know what's going on in the game that he says he's controlling and being able to decide and make any deals happen. Regardless of anything, this is all strategy. Just like the NFL offseason is still within the media and within the news and in everybody's conversation because something's going on to keep it going. At the same time, the timing of these things is, for me, interesting. It all coincides with distraction as well as determination for other routes, left or right, while everybody's fighting over picking and choosing their own battles. Regardless, Stephen, keep doing what you're doing. You're speaking truth, but more importantly, you're emphasizing the foundation of what behavior actually tells us. The words coming out the mouth don't mean nothing more, but when the actions follow, that's the truth. He says one and does another. It catches people off guard because that's exactly what he wants to do, so that way they're not focusing on anything else. You're good to do what you do, but when it affects everybody as a whole, I have a problem with that. If he's the president of the United States, as he says he's trying to run the country.
Okay. I appreciate the call, sir. I appreciate the call. I've got to transition left because I've got to talk to one of the great boxing promoters of our time, the head, the founder, the co-founder, and the head of Top Rank, the one and only Bob Arum is on the line with us. What's going on, Bob? How are you, sir? How's everything?
Hey, Stephen. Really good. Really good. I'm here in Vegas. We have a big fight coming up on Saturday with Terence "Bud" Crawford challenging for the WBO welterweight title against Jeff Horn. A lot of excitement here.
Now, how do you feel? I mean, listen, we're talking about Jeff Horn and Terence Crawford. Everybody's been talking about Terence Crawford. I know you like Jeff Horn. You put Jeff Horn against Manny Pacquiao. It was a tough fought decision. I thought Manny Pacquiao deserved that decision, but he didn't get it. Jeff Horn got it. He's the WBO welterweight champion. He's going up against Jeff Horn. Talk to me about this fight and what it will mean for either fighter in your mind.
Well, if Horn wins the fight, obviously he's huge, having two upsets to his credit, Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford. Obviously, Terence is favorite in the fight. Bud Crawford is, sensational. He beat everybody at 135, and then a junior welterweight 140, won all four belts. Now he moves up to 147, and if he beats Horn, as I hope and expect that he will, that starts his ability to conquer all the welterweights out there.
Now, you got to remember, Bob Arum, you were on the record, and I remember when you and I were talking about Lomachenko, and you talked about how phenomenal he was, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and, you compared him already in 8-9 fights to the all-time greats, and we've seen nothing that would disprove what you said. You were not shy about showering that level of praise on Lomachenko. Now I want to hear what kind of praise you'll shower on Terence Crawford, because obviously he's considered great himself. What are your thoughts about him?
Absolutely. Two ways of greatness. Lomachenko, very unique. We haven't seen this style of fighting ever in modern times. He's a machine, unbelievable. Terence Crawford, we've seen before. We've seen it in Sugar Ray Leonard, but that's high praise. I mean, I compare Crawford to the great Ray Leonard, and I think Ray was a phenomenal fighter, and I think that's praise enough. He is not unique, Terence Crawford isn't, but he is on the level that Ray Leonard was.
Well, Bob Arum, the great Bob Arum, I'm going to challenge you here just a little bit, sir, because Sugar Ray Leonard is one of my all-time favorites, and I like Terence Crawford a lot. I just spoke to him a couple of days ago. I know how great he is, but when you say you want to compare him to Sugar Ray Leonard, I mean, very few people on this planet know boxing as much as you, Bob Arum. Give me some details. Why would you make that specific comparison?
Because he is athletic. He's a great defensive fighter. He gives his opponent different looks, and he can transition from defense to offense, which Ray could do. When Ray was fighting against Tommy Hearns, that great first fight, and Hearns was beating him, and Ray couldn't outbox him because of Tommy's reach, Ray went on the attack and knocked out the great Hearns. That showed me tremendous skill and determination. And that's what I see in Terence Crawford.
Great Bob Arum, co-founder, boss for Top Rank Boxing. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Terence Crawford is challenging Jeff Horn for the WBL welterweight crown this Saturday night, tomorrow night on the ESPN Plus app. They're fighting at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. I know I can't wait to watch it. I encourage everybody to make sure they watch it. Bob, I got to ask you about this. Just looking at this guy and talking to Terence, he's looking at the welterweight division, and he's moving up, obviously. I look at Jeff Horn as a rugged dude, devoid of the skill necessary to beat a Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford has already opened his mouth talking about he wants Errol Spence Jr., he wants Keith Thurman. A guy like a Danny Garcia and the Sean Porters of the world and others are in this division as well. How confident are you in Terence Crawford, considering the fact that he's moving up to fight these quality of guys, so he would be the smaller man going up against them, Bob?
Well, that is a very, very valid point. But I think that Terence Bud Crawford has the skill and the ability to beat all of them. I think when he finally hangs up his gloves, people will look at him and say, there was an all-time great.
Bob Arum right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. I know you don't like to look past these fights, but you're a visionary, and you're an individual that obviously plans ahead. You can see the forest from the trees. This is what you do. Assuming Terence Crawford handles his business this weekend, what's next for him, Bob?
We're going to get him right back in action. Hopefully, if he's not injured or anything, in October on ESPN, on the linear platform. The fact that ESPN wanted Terence on his first big boxing show on ESPN Plus, and by the way, I have used that app. You can see 80 of the greatest fights in boxing history on it. You can see all of Bud Crawford's fights on it. There's baseball. There's basketball. There's everything. It is absolutely phenomenal because they have such an infinite bandwidth. And people, I'm not conning anybody for their money. People should go on ESPN Plus. There's a 7-day free trial. So, in effect, they can see this fight for nothing. But once you're on that app, and if you're a sports fan, you will keep it forever for $4.95 a month.
It's interesting. I'm listening to you talk, Bob Arum, and just knowing how long you've been associated with the sport of boxing, spanning more than 50 years, for crying out loud, probably longer than that. I got to ask you this question. You've been a part of the great boxing promotions in the history of the sport. What's your favorite? What of all these fights that you've been associated with throughout the decades? Give me the top 2 events that you personally have been a part of in your illustrious promotional career.
Well, and I look at events that produce sensational fights. And the first one on my all-time list is Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Tommy the Hitman Hearns. 3 rounds, the best 3 rounds in the history of boxing. I mean, Tommy hit Marvin with a punch that would have knocked down a wall. Marvin blinked and came back, and then I knew the fight was going to be over because Marvin had been hit by Tommy's best punch and came back and knocked Tommy out in the 3rd round. Great, sensational fight. The second best fight, and it's really close, was the Thriller in Manila, when Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier fought the 14 of the most unbelievable rounds that I've ever seen in boxing, where Ali gets off to a big start, Frazier comes back in the middle of the fight, looks like he's going to knock Ali out, and Ali pulls himself together from the 12th round on, closes both of Frazier's eyes. Frazier can't see as he goes back to the corner, and Eddie Futz stops the fight at the end of the 14th round. Ali described that fight as going through death, and it was. I have never seen a fight like that, the intensity for 14 full rounds in my life.
But the thing about it is,
I'll never forget it.
You're making history right here on this show because you might be the only individual I have ever heard that puts any fight above the Thriller in Manila. And you just said Hearns Hagler. And that was 3 rounds, and Ali and Frazier was 14. And I watched that fight about 7 different times. You're absolutely right with everything that you said, but I've never heard anything put before it.
Well, okay, that's debatable. I mean, Steve, I will agree with you completely. Those who say that the Thriller in Manila is the greatest fight of all time, a lot of things to say. But rewatch those two great middleweights, Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns.
I love it. Hagler's one of my
if you're
all-time
so
favorites.
confident in it.
Hagler's one of my all-time favorites. Bob, I got a last question for you. Are you ready for this one, sir? Because, see, I love talking boxing with you because you teach me things, Bob. You teach me things. I love talking this stuff with you. I got to throw this question at you. Is there any fight that potentially exists out there in the sport of boxing that could give you one of those two moments that you just mentioned? A Hagler Hearns, a Thriller in Manila. Is there any fight in the future, down the road somewhere, that you can foresee that kind of impact on the sport of boxing, that kind of magnitude on the sports world? Anything out there?
Well, sometimes you don't see too far, but, I would love to see at the end of the year, at 135 pounds or catchweight, Vasyl Lomachenko go against the Pac-Man, Manny Pacquiao. I think that would be a tremendous, tremendous event.
Really? But Pacquiao,
yeah.
See, here's my problem. I think Lomachenko would beat him now. I mean, if Jeff Horn can mug him and beat him, Jeff Horn doesn't have the skills of a Lomachenko.
Right, but Jeff Horn is much bigger than Lomachenko. Lomachenko is a guy coming up from 126, coming up as a featherweight. But what you say is correct. But I'm looking at the possibility of Manny Pacquiao. He wants to fight Lomachenko. I think that would be a huge fight. And I think down the road there'll be a great, great contest for welterweight supremacy between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. I think that's a fight that people
I think that's an epic matchup.
I agree with you. That'll happen.
But let me ask you this, Bob.
Make it happen.
You mentioned Pacquiao and Lomachenko. Why not Crawford and Lomachenko somewhere down the line? Is Lomachenko too small?
A little too small, yeah. A little too small. Maybe one day, who knows?
Maybe.
But right now, a lot too small.
Hey, listen, Terence Crawford's fighting Jeff Horn tomorrow night at the MGM Grand in Vegas for the WBO welterweight crown on the ESPN Plus. Obviously, it's being promoted by Top Rank. Bob Arum, always an honor and a privilege to talk to you, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out of these schedules.
Stephen, good to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, buddy. The one and only Bob Arum for Top Rank right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Ladies and gentlemen, I marvel at Bob Arum. I forgot how old he is. He's in his 80s. And you listen to him talk, I mean, just lucid, on point. Memory is sharp, knows what he's talking about. And we've seen these fights on video. He's promoted them. He's been to all of them. He's talking about Bob Arum here. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the man knows what he's talking about. I love talking to Bob about this stuff because who ever put something above the Thriller in Manila? That has never happened, ever. I have never, ever, ever talked to any individual that has told me they'd put something above Thriller in Manila. By the way, Bob Arum is 86 years old. Turns 87 on December 8th. And listen how sharp he was. It's the man. It's the man. Back to your calls and more in a minute. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you live from Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Quickens Loans Arena, the Q. That's the site of Game 4 tonight on ESPN. And by the way, NBA Finals, special edition of Sports Center, hosted by yours truly, Stephen A., from 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you don't miss it. Again, it's the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
"Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash."
His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to Mike in the Bronx. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Mike.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm good, man. Thank you for calling.
All right, Stephen, let me ask you. Did you ask Bob Arum what 2 fights he promoted that were the best to him, or just his all-time 2 fights?
I asked him his all-time 2 fights.
Okay, because for the life of me, I don't know how he didn't mention Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello.
You know what? I got to admit to you, I love that, but I think he hit the nose on the head. Listen, let me tell you something right now. Hagler and Hearns were the bomb. They lived up to that hype, and the Thriller in Manila is the Thriller in Manila. Now, Pryor and Aguero went against each other twice. Now, I know Aaron Pryor was something special. A lot of people didn't want to fight him back in the day. He was like a Energizer bunny. He just kept coming and coming and coming. But it didn't help. It didn't hurt, rather, that he kept looking at his trainer, and his trainer, rather, was looking at him, get him the stuff, give him the stuff. You know, the stuff. We still don't know what the hell that stuff was. This is in the 80s, man. It could have been amphetamines. It could have been coke. It could have been anything. We don't know. But I do know this. Alexis Arguello was big time. And that second fight, I felt bad for him, Mike. Listen, that's the one fight, Mike. You'll appreciate what I'm about to say. That was the one fight where a guy sat on a canvas, literally sat up, and looked at the referee and counted with him on purpose. And nobody had a problem with it. Because Alexis Arguello hit that man with everything he had. And Aaron Pryor kept coming. I don't blame him one bit, Mike. How about you?
No, I don't blame him. And I'm saying, yeah, he counted with him. But I'm saying for the new school, those are 2 fights that I would say the new school, if you want to see some excellent action fights.
Well, let's just say those top 5 then. How about top 5? Can we leave it at that?
There. Yeah, we'll put it there. Yeah,
we'll put it there because the Thriller in Manila and Hagler Hearns is hard to top, bro.
No, it was a 3. No, actually, it was a 3-round war. No, we can't go. No, we cannot put that out the box.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Steven. Let me ask you this. Now, get with me with this, right? The Cavaliers have a guy sitting on the bench. Listen, I know what Golden State has, what they're doing. I'm asking you from a coach's perspective, wouldn't it behoove you to actually use bodies to at least rest people, even if they're not giving you what you think they can give you?
Well, I get where you're coming from. That's why I got on Tyronn Lue for waiting so long to put in Rodney Hood. The flip side to it, in terms of generically what you're saying about playing more bodies if you're Cleveland, the problem with that is that Golden State is so prolific offensively that putting in people just to make sure bodies are fresh. Look, man, I've seen Golden State overcome double-digit deficits inside of a minute. So they are that explosive. And that's my problem with your statement, Mike.
But I'm just saying that Steve Kerr is about matchups. And you got to sometimes be about matchups.
Don't matter whether he's about matchups or not, Mike. The fact of the matter is that at any given moment, he's got 2 sharpshooters on the court. That's the problem. He's got 2 sharpshooters on the court at all times. That's the issue. I got to run, though, Mike. Thank you. Mel in Syracuse, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Mel.
Stephen A., I love you, brother.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick jab. Wasn't there a cat that called and said Cavs in 5, and you say you was going to get them?
Yeah, I don't remember who.
Well, all right, so when it comes to the anthem, Kaepernick taught me something, and I learned that third stanza in that anthem is real suspect. And when it comes to this president and how he hijacked it, now he's talking about pardons. He's in a position right now to change the way the criminal justice system runs in this country. But him and his attorney general are rolling back protections. They floated nationwide stop and frisk, and they said that they are not going to investigate any officer-involved shootings. So I'm just saying, don't believe the hype, Stephen A.
Well, it ain't a matter of believing the hype. I think that ultimately what it comes down to is that, no matter what the president does as it pertains to this particular issue, what you're going to have to ask yourself as voters out there is that come re-election time, first of all, you got the midterm elections you got to worry about. You got to deal with. All right. Then after that, come re-election time, who's the candidate that's going to go against them, and what is somebody offering that's going to pull some of those independent voters or even the conservative voters away from him? I don't see an adversary. So people can say what they want, but they better get used to him because it don't look like he's going anywhere anytime in the future. It just doesn't. And that's just a reality that people going to have to learn to deal with and learn to handle. That's just where I'm at with it. But I appreciate the call, Mel. Thank you so much. Matt in Cincinnati, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Matt?
What's going on, Stephen A?
Talk up, Matt. My audience needs to hear you, bro. Go ahead.
If I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm doing whatever I can to get LeBron James while keeping Towns, Butler, and Wiggins. That would be nasty. That's a big four.
I cannot see LeBron James going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. No way in hell.
Think about it, though. Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, LeBron James.
I'm not going to think about it. I'm telling you it's not going to happen.
LeBron's never had a dominant big man in the paint, ever.
Oh, and Minnesota doesn't have one now. Minnesota doesn't have one now. Karl Anthony Towns ain't no dominant big man in the paint. He a dominant big man out on the perimeter. But Houston showed he was no dominant big man in the paint. Clint Capella showed that.
I'm just saying, man, with that defense.
You're giving me emotion. I just gave you facts, so you couldn't come back with anything. Have a nice day, Matt. Let's go to Robert in Phoenix. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Robert.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A?
Talk
I want to let you know that I'm a huge fan, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
But when it comes to the comparison with LeBron and Jordan, I feel like we don't give enough credit to Jordan's teammates as well as Phil Jackson.
Okay.
I feel like we ignore the season of 94 and 95.
Okay.
Which is a still competitive team and made it to the playoffs. Now,
Not only
LeBron
that, that's the season they got robbed when Hugh Hollins did that bogus call against Scottie Pippen in Chicago. And I'm a Knicks fan, and even I know that was a bogus call. That was a phantom call. There was no foul on Hubert Davis. Go ahead.
But that shows you that the pressure wasn't really on Jordan because he had a great team. Here's the team that was able to make it far in the playoffs without Jordan.
They didn't make it far in the playoffs. That was the Eastern Conference semifinals, but go ahead.
Well, that's the playoffs. I'm not talking about the finals. But if you put LeBron on a team that just need him to come in and get you to the finals, and that's, what are we looking at? Eight rings? I mean, how much did Jordan really need to do?
You can look at it like that. I look at the quality of the conference that he's playing in. I appreciate the call. Thank you. I look at the quality of the conference that LeBron is playing in compared to what Jordan had to play in, and it's night and day. The East was the place to be, and that was the rough road to prosperity that he had to travel. That's not what LeBron James has to travel. I think the East is relatively weak, and I think we've seen that evidence over and over and over again. But that's just me. More of your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
By the way, don't think I missed that doubleheader the other night when Aaron Judge struck out 8 times. Don't think I missed that. I remember. I'm just in NBA Finals mode. I'll get back to my New York Yankees soon enough. I'll get back to them. James and Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, James.
Steve, how are you?
I'm all right.
Hey,
Go ahead,
Stephen
buddy.
A., how are you?
I'm all right. Go.
Couple of quick points. One, why doesn't Mark Jackson get a job in the NBA?
He's been, listen, it's working against him. Point number 2. Go ahead.
Stephen A., although I hear what LeBron and Steph are saying about not going to the White House, I just think that them going to the White House would be such a good thing to get open dialogue going. Because if you're not going to talk about a subject, it's never going to go away.
You know what? I don't think it's just their distaste for the president in terms of his behavior. I think they believe he'll use them as a prop, and that's what the problem is. It's like they don't believe he'd have genuine discussion with them or anything like that. I think they are fearful they'd be used as a prop, and they don't trust them. But I got to go, James. I appreciate the call. There's another James. This one's in Virginia. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, James? How are you?
Stephen A. Smith, my brother, I got to tell you, man, you are my role model. You are my grandson role model. I told him if he's going to mark himself after any sportsman journeyman in this world, let it be you, man, because you are an awesome dude. Keep your head up and don't never give up on us, man, because you're an awesome dude. And one more other thing, take it easy on Max, because when you come down on Max, I feel so sorry for him, buddy.
I ain't taking it easy on him. I love Max. Max is a good brother, man. He really, really is. But the problem is he's so damn good. He's scared. He don't want to upset people. He wants everybody to agree with him and wants to play nice all the damn time. That leads him to taking 8 different positions, and I'm not having it. Pick a side, and if you don't, I'm going to make you or call you out on it. That much is never going to change. But I do appreciate you and your grandson admiring me the way that you do. And I thank you, and God bless you, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much. Bobby in Jersey, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Bobby, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A., man? Good to hear you, man, every day, man.
Thank
you. One thing I think about the president, I just hope Cory Booker does the running.
Hey, Cory Booker might have a shot. Cory Booker might have a shot. We'll see. We'll see. Did a good job in Jersey. I think he's doing a good job in the Senate now. But he needs to focus more so on policy than on Trump's behavior. And if he does that, I think he could be a legit challenger. What's your second point?
And LeBron can't take nothing away from him, man. I'm a Lakers fan, but given it all the way he came back to Cleveland and what he's been doing, man, I give the man a lot of credit, man. He can only do so much, man.
I give him credit. He's the best player in the world, but he ain't winning these finals. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Michael in New York, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Michael, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? Hello. First time getting on. I've been such a fan for so long. I just want to say that I played basketball with Dr. Spivak's son last night. Great kid, got high character just like Doc Spivak. But anyways, I want to talk about Rodney Hood.
Dr. Spivak's the best. Well, go ahead.
He's unbelievable.
I only got 30 seconds. Go ahead, buddy.
I don't understand Ty Lue with the Rodney Hood business. I mean, you got to give the guy some opportunities, some shots. I mean, he's in the game with the last 5 minutes, and I understand LeBron going ISO every time, but he's on the right side. I mean, there's another side of the court, and aside from that, LeBron's got to get a win here because, I mean, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shooting 2 for 30 in the game and you don't get a win. I don't care if
you got to get one.
There's no
you got to get one. He said, listen, this is basketball. This is not football or baseball where you really, really need everybody else. In a game of basketball, a superstar should be able to get you one game. A superstar should be able to get you one game. And damn it, LeBron needs to avoid a sweep tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because if he gets swept, it's not going to look very good. It's just that simple. I'm not deviating from that. But I am picking him to get swept. We'll talk about why on Monday. Until then, peace and love, everybody. Have a safe week.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.